let me introduce you to Captain Mark Souter, friend of the Institute, member, and I will show you a copy of his book later. We must always try and promote everything that all our members do. This is based on a book that Mike produced a few years ago, and I encouraged him to turn this into a PowerPoint for your benefit. This moves us slightly into the area of larger craft. Lots of, I think, Mark might have a view on this, smaller craft surveyors are quite keen to get into the larger vessels, but some of them are not quite sure how to do it and what's involved. So I'm rather hoping, Mark, this presentation will give people a sort of a bit of an overview. So without further ado, over to you.
Well, thank you, Mike, and many thanks, especially to all the previous speakers. Very, very enjoyable actually conversations actually between everybody, and in particular I had a good laugh with Ian and Jeffrey and the insights on everything that they had to give based on nearly 100 years of surveying was absolutely brilliant. And also a big thank you to you, Mike, for actually making this whole event possible. Now, going on to the subject of, or it's a simple subject of actually tips and basic principles for marine surveying. I mean, this is actually an enormous subject. And that's why actually at the end of the PowerPoint display, I have my email address, and I'm very happy for people to write to me as much as they like and whenever they like. And when I can, I will answer any questions. I think this is probably, I think one of the most important things is that people should share information, and above all, if you're in doubt, go to the professionals. Now, when you go to build a, whether it be actually, when you're involved in a new build, whether it be a 30 metre or 60 metre, you just literally cannot have the knowledge or the skill set to oversee an entire project, but we'll go into that slowly as we go through. So, as you just said then, there's a lot of, I have certainly come across a lot of surveyors that are wanting to work their way up into doing new builds. Now, these new build yachts, you must remember, let's say a basic production line, 30 metre yacht would be probably starting price is 15 million euros, and going up to say 50 or 60 metre yacht, then we're talking about figures of 50 to 60 million euros, and plus VAT. These are very expensive toys, massively expensive toys, and the onus on the marine surveyor is just enormous. It can't be underestimated. So here, in this first slide, I'd like to talk about just the comparison between, I say, a new build surveyor to an existing super yacht surveyor. On a new build, we need to identify the problems in the design and the construction stages before even the keel is laid. Whereas on an existing super yacht, we identify any damages, possible causes, and plan rectification after a physical inspection. Now, putting this into context, let's just look at an existing super yacht where there's going to be a 30 metre or 60 metre, and whether it's going to be 1 year old or even 10 years old. The surveyor's been asked to come along and actually do an inspection on a vessel that's, let's say, had a minor grounding. The surveyors arrived at the shipyard, and sure enough, you can see there's been a propeller, possibly a distorted propeller shaft or bracket. And it's then a bit like a game of hide and seek. You can see some of the faults that have been caused by the grounding effect on a reef, or where there's even a piece of timber or something like this, or hitting a container in a worst case scenario. But he actually has to seek out the damages within the vessel. But the difference is, the thing is, he's got the physical vessel yacht in front of him. You can actually touch it, you can smell it, you can actually stroke it, you can actually call upon other surveyors as well, and go through the whole process of actually investigating the causes and the rectification of the problem, and then writing up a damage report, or even in a pre-purchase survey. You've got the vessel there in front of you. it's in its entirety, and you can actually make a thorough report, or in some cases, as what Kathy was saying, a not so thorough report. On a new build, however, this is an entirely different story. While it helps to have the experience, and was it Ian Nicholson was saying, he said that all surveyors should ideally own or have operated a yacht at some stage in their life, or even in the present time. I thankfully, my experience has included owning several yachts myself, mostly sailing boats just for my own pleasure. And in fact, my first yacht was a 34-foot timber cutter. It was the original Gypsy Moth, which most of your viewers would have heard of. And then I had the larger teak yachts, iron hull yachts, and also I've worked as a captain, a professional captain for more than 30 years. So I've actually had the experience of working on aluminium steel, hull steel, etc., and GRP and FRP yachts. So during this, thankfully, the experience that I've had on either owning or operating these yachts, I put together over the years a list of what are called red flag areas on a yacht. Red flag areas, meaning that actually we've had problems during the service of the yacht, the motor yacht in most cases, and it's an area where I knew that actually if ever I was going to be building another yacht, or when in the next project that I was involved in, I needed to keep close attention to. And we're talking about red flag areas on a super yacht, run into probably the thousands of areas. So you cannot actually just have a memory of it. It must be documented. And that is probably the principal reason why I went ahead in 2016, I think it was, and I wrote the book called Marine Surveying for New Motor Yachts. And because I wanted to put down a practical solutions for marine surveyors. This book, just for your knowledge, it's just it's been taken out of production because, out of distribution because it sold out. It was a very successful book, and then I had a couple of boxes left over, which I have given to Mike to sell. And yeah, there you go.
Here they are, Mark, and people online. And weighty things, $39.50 from the Institute, much cheaper than Mark's original price. So they're available for $39.50. They're not on the website, but contact HQ and we'll gladly arrange to send you one out. Great book.
That's a great value, excellent value for money, Mike. Actually, at $39.50, whatever it is. I had them for £100, and actually I was selling them by the yacht the shipyards were buying them for the captains and for. I don't know for fellow surveyors, but mostly yacht brokers were also buying them because they found it was an actually ideal gift, certainly at Christmas time. As to whether I do a second version of the book, I don't know, because it was such a costly thing to do in the publication. I think if I do version 2 of it, it'll be with a sponsor on board. Now, getting back to the comparing between the new build and existing super yacht, what happens in a shipyard is you'll arrive there and the shipyard will probably give you a 4 by 5 meter concrete room without any windows. You'll have a coffee maker at one corner and a place where you put all your files and your books. And that's the full extent of your yacht. Of course, this depends on what stage you have been contracted to come into the project. Now, so there's actually no physical yacht per se to go and inspect. In most cases, I've always been involved in right from scratch, or actually even before even the keel is laid, actually well before it, so that my input in the design and the technical aspect has been considered. So, but saying that, we have an awful lot of tools on our hands to use to help us through the project. I think the greatest tool for me has been going to the end result of a building project of a boat of similar size or similar, built by the shipyard or similar shipyard, and seeing what are the faults that have come up. And I've been also gifted by having a very close friend of mine who's an insurance adjuster, and he's constantly giving me a call, sending me an email, and asking for my professional advice regarding insurance claims. Now, whenever we have an insurance claims, and it always seems to be coming down to typical things like fires, corrosion, paint jobs, etc. We'll go into this a little bit later. These key points, let's just say fires, these key points help the surveyor, the new build surveyor, make sure that actually the boat is, shall we say, constructed in a way that will minimize future fires, in this case. So these and the other tools, of course, you have is that on most of these big super yachts, you have a chief engineer, and in some cases, actually even a second engineer. Chief engineers I found who have been working on the high seas for 20 to 30 years have a wealth of knowledge as well. So he's your right-hand man. Captains as well are very well versed in the problems that they've had throughout their lifetime as well. But saying that you cannot rely upon them all, because not all of them are actually experienced as you. And my skill set also is that I have an A-grade license, electrical license. And as most people are aware, is a lot of the fires are also caused by electrical faults, not just galley fires. So it is having this access to your team around you, which we'll go into now, and be able to call upon your team to help you in this will assist you immensely. So don't think that let's say an existing condition surveyor or a surveyor cannot get into the new build surveyor. Just you need a strong stomach, however, in order to get into the really large boats. So here we go. We have two very different roles for a surveyor. Keep that in mind. Now, I'll be inserting a few photos of these super yachts, and that's with acknowledgement and thanks to IYC Yacht Brokers. Now, I understand that some of the viewers of this Zoom event are students. So in this case here, in the next few slides, I would like to introduce you to the core team of the new build. We have the yacht agent, or they often called the yacht broker, the project manager who's overseeing the entire thing, the buyer, the marine surveyor, the builder's representative, the naval architect, the designer, and the builder. Now, we're not going to delve into all the aspects of all the core team. However, some of them you really need to have a watchful eye out for. And I would say the yacht agent is one of them, because don't forget, he is representing the owner. He's probably buddies with the owner of the yacht. He wants to make sure that he's going to get his commission at the end of the day, and he wants the boat delivered on time too. So you really, it's a juggling game constantly, and finding and putting out fires, metaphorically speaking, between maybe the yacht agent, the builder, the owner, etc. The project manager, well, you can't have a new build without a project manager, and the project manager is going to be, he has to be on your right hand side all the time, and you'll be reporting to him more than likely in a CC, in an email, or whatever. It is important to certainly clarify actually who your client is. More cases than not, you will be contracted by the owner and the owner's representative, and usually it seems to be in most cases a captain. you'll be actually reporting directly with the captain, because I've never had a situation where I'm actually sending emails to the owner, and I certainly wouldn't like that, because the owner's is more interested in actually making money and spending it than actually how his yacht is assembled. So your contact directly will be between obviously the guy that's contracted you with it. Let's say in this case it is the owner's representative, and the communication you'll be having is directly with him, and CC everything with the project manager. I say CC with the project manager because, I mean, more often than not, the project manager will also have a lot of questions for you. So, you know, if I'm going on board a yacht in Italy, I'll be saying to the captain or the owner's representative, hey, next Wednesday, the 15th, I'll be down at the shipyard, and I'll be staying for 3 to 4 days, and with a CC to the project manager, so that everybody is in the loop. The buyer, well, we know who he is and all that. The marine surveyor, but we're going to go into more on that in a minute on the next slide. The buyer's representative. Anybody can go back into their slides later on and read the small compressed details of it. The designer, well, they can be a can of worms to deal with because they're usually way out there with their design features. Best way to deal with them is try to get a picture of the end result. Naval architects speaks for itself, and you don't have a great deal with them except if you've got any questions about anything to do with the naval architecture aspect. The builder. Now, the builder, his main prerogative is to get the yacht built on time and according to the budget. The owner doesn't want to spend any more than what is actually quoted. However, as you progress through the build, or even at the very, very beginning, you'll see certain things which don't come up to par based on your experience of building other yachts, or your gut feeling is just not right. Be very careful how you present any complaints, and remember to follow the protocol of the shipyard. Every shipyard will have a designated person that is handles complaints either by and from anybody involved in the vessel. You certainly don't go up to the plumber, the electrician, and say, "Hey, mate, what the hell are you doing there?" You're going to have a fist fight in your hand there. And remember, above all, don't involve the lawyers at this stage. I remember it was at Ian, yeah, he said he's pet hate of American lawyers, and I had to have a good laugh with that. But it's actually very, very true. And it reminds me of a new build in Australia, in Perth, I think it was actually, where a shipyard was absolutely delighted to have this famous, individual that was buying a very large yacht. At the end of the project, they actually hated every minute of the project. And I've heard this in other builds as well, because it's been a new build that's involved lawyers against lawyers, and there's a no-win situation. So if you've got problems with the builder, in the quality control, in the way that something is actually being put together, assembled, all the materials, or anything for that matter, first of all, follow the protocol of the shipyard. Bring it to the attention of the owner's representative. He's your customer. He's the one that's paying for it. And then sit down and say, well, listen, we need to rectify it. In most cases, we need to rectify it. Let's put it in black and white. And but actually, let me go back a fraction there. Often, before I've even put it in black and white, I've gone to the builder or the guy that's actually designated for the boat and said, hey, buddy, we've got a little problem here. and I need your help on it. Everybody loves it if you just go up to them and just say, I need your help. Don't think that you're above him, or for that matter, even below him. Just go and say, you know, I need your guidance and your help on it. And I think I'd probably 9 times out of 10, I've always resolved the problem before I've even put it in black and white. But saying that, you resolve the problem with the builder, but put it in black and white. Now, what we said before was on an existing super, you've got what do you call it, report writing. On a new build, we don't have report writing like the way you normally do on a second-hand yacht. The report writing that we have, that we put together, is based on the progress of the build as it goes through from day one right through to the finish. Now, and this is all in the form of an email to your client. In this case, we said the owner's representative. So you're saying to the owner's representative, hey, Mike, I've got an issue here with the material used and the shell plating of the in the transom. You've got it there in black and white. As far as sharing the information further would only come about if the problem is not rectified. Remember, it's not a case of keeping the owner out of it, per se, because he's paying your bill. But from my experiences, you just don't want to get the owner involved. He's paying you and he's paying his captain to sort out the bloody mess. So follow the protocol, try and sort it out. So many times I've found actually just going to a pub or restaurant at night time and actually sitting around and having a friendly chat with the builder's representative, the builder's manager, always sorts it out. So getting on to the marine surveyor now and what his principal roles are. The specification list. Submit the specification list only after consulting with the core team. Now, some cases, the specification list has already been taken out of your hands because you've already come in when the specification list has been signed off as an addendum to the contract, together with all the drawings and files and payment terms, etc., etc. So the specification list is actually, it's like a sealed doc. It's the most important document in the entire build, and we're going to go into a little bit more on this, how important it is. The very fact that actually maybe the specification list has already been signed off, and unfortunately you didn't have any input in it, it doesn't mean that you ignore it. And it's a signed deal, signed and sealed deal with between the owner and the shipyard. One of the first things I'd be doing is actually taking the specification list home with me, and it does take a tremendous amount of work, and you may even have to do it for free. I've been involved in projects where I've actually they've said to me, a client has said to me, listen, in a year's time we're going to be doing a new build and we'll get you to come on board after the keel's laid or whatever. I just say to them, well, can I please have the specification list, just so I can do some homework on it. Go through the entire specification list, write down everything that you feel that is not appropriate or should be looked at in any greater depth, and once again document it to your client. Guidance, work with your client directly and state everything in writing, as we said before. Coordination, keep the project manager updated after each inspection. That is a must, after each inspection. Don't go home and then just say, put your notes in the file. That is not enough. And actually that cannot be brought up later on as a testimony that there was an issue. All your thoughts or your ideas should go down in writing, just as a friendly member to your client. Inspection, follow the checklist in the marine surveying book. as a minimum guide. Well, as the guide is actually it's 400 pages, so you're not going to be carrying that around with you all the time. Don't try to remember the list, but moreover, have a printed out checkbox page. And if anybody gets their hands on my book, I give you permission to photocopy whatever pages you like from the book, and just throw that in your back pocket, and so that once you arrive at the shipyard, you can actually have a little checkbox next to it and tick off all the points. There's no way in the world you're going to remember everything that needs to be inspected. I've even made mistakes, even with my own checklist thing. I've gone back to the hotel, like, oh damn, I didn't check that thing off in the list. Specialists. We all know about actually specialists in the field and have them in your diary, that's for sure. I've got a huge list of actually specialists that I call upon, and they're always, I always manage somehow to thank them in one way or another for their generous ability to share their information to me whenever I need it. I would also make it clear in your contract with the client that you may need at times to call upon a specialist if the subject matter is actually beyond your field, and therefore this would incur an additional fee. Don't be ashamed about asking for that and informing it. And if they say, well, you're supposed to know everything, we'll just say, no, it's impossible for you to know everything. And, most people are pretty reasonable about it. And if you bring in a specialist, worst case scenario might be a one-day visit, flights, accommodation. Most times it's a bunch of photos and actually getting on the phone and actually talking to the specialist. Required functionality. Here's a good one. Check for practicality, health and safety, and access for repairs. Delivery. Perform a thorough sea trial before acceptance of the delivery is signed. And let's go through these. The specification list of the new build. I've got to watch the time now because I've got specifications at the very heart of the entire project and must therefore reflect exactly what the buyer and his crew had intended in the original design concept. Meaning that the scope of supply and delivery from the shipyard must be able to integrate all of the systems requested by the buyer and develop a form of logic that is electrically, electronically, and functionally compatible. Note, if the specification list has already been signed, I can then still inform the client about it. The compatibility, you've got so many subcontractors coming into a shipyard as well. And occasionally, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. So you need to bring everybody together and double check that actually the systems are compatible. Some of the specifications must be clear and accurate, reviewed by independent professionals, reviewed by the crew, compare against other shipyards. If necessary, actually, it's not a bad idea to look at specifications from other shipyards as well. Make sure the list of equipment is the latest available. This is one that catches a few people out. Your suppliers of equipment for the yacht often change, and equipment is actually upgraded. So you really need to be one step of the game for that as well. Sometimes, of course, let's say a generator is already purchased and it's the old model and is already at the shipyard, it may be difficult to change it. Systematic approach. Firstly, at each stage of the design, construction, and inspection of the building project, I highly recommend using a simple 3-point process that has helped me greatly when approaching each new project. And there's something which I developed myself, but in here, it's basic stuff. It's called IGV process. Intention, goal, vision. What I'm saying in this is actually, at the beginning of each day of each inspection, what is my intention for the day? Is it to make sure that the starboard shaft is aligned correctly? What is the goal? I want to need to follow through with that by literally inspecting, for example, the mounting plates of the shaft bracket. Is it laser aligned, or is it actually just with a wire? And vision helps a hell of a lot. I need to, time and time again, I want to visualize what I expect out of the project or the particular inspection. Once you set in place, it's like watching a movie and you just keep replaying the movie every day. What I expect to see at the end of the inspection would in most cases actually mean that actually I've inspected it thoroughly. Without that vision, often the inspection is actually only partially completed. Creating a livable yacht. To create the ideal living environment on any yacht, one should consider the following subject matters. Now, let's put them all down here. You say to yourself, well, what's this got to do with a marine surveyor? Surely he's looking at the structural integrity of the yacht, making sure that it's safe, seaworthy, God knows what. Well, oddly enough, when the yacht is launched, and your customer, your client, your owner comes back to you and he says, "Mate, the first day out on the boat, the toilet blocked. The first day out, actually, the air conditioning didn't work. The first day out, I don't know, the gangway didn't work." They're not going to ask you about the structural integrity of the boat. It's all the ancillary aspects of the boat, which will usually draw the attention of the owner. So on an air quality, that's why I put these headings now. As air quality, this involves air conditioning. Air conditioning for the yacht is so paramount because often these big super yachts are chartered out for €250,000 euros every week. And halfway through the voyage, let's say the air conditioning fails, and the owner of the yacht's going to say, "Well, why didn't we have a redundancy package? Surely this should have been built into the thing." And this is where the marine surveyor, I feel, needs to scratch his head at the beginning in the specifications and work out precisely how to set up a yacht so that we have, for example, proper air conditioning systems, air treatment systems, air ventilation for the bilges, proper access to the fan coils, access meaning actually how we can sterilize the fan coil filters before each and every voyage, especially now with the COVID story. It's so important that we air treatment systems, for example, exist and are serviced. It could be one of the first questions that you have from a client. From a charter is actually to the captain is, is the air sterilized? Is it, what are you doing about it? Vibration. Now, this is usually to do with shaft alignments, mounting of equipment. You're not putting any, for example, generators right next to the accommodation areas. Noise, this will go in, we're going into the aspect of insulation. Again, the positioning of noisy equipment, if on any reverse osmosis plants, they have high pressure pumps. Of course, you're not going to put a high pressure pump next to accommodation area or under an aft deck lunch area. So this goes back then into the specifications again and the blueprint drawings of the engine room. Have you gone through it carefully with the chief engineer and looked at the mounting of all the equipment? Illumination. This is one that actually often is actually forgotten by everybody involved in the yacht until the last day. Actually, on the first night's passage, the captain gives you a call and says, "Mate, I can't navigate this yacht at night time. I can't isolate the bright areas of the lounge area, of the galley area, of the adjoining actually master cabin, and I can't actually dimmer half the electronic equipment in the bridge." So keep that in mind right from day one, and actually learn how to set up the equipment and operate the equipment as well. Fresh water. Fresh water is an issue, especially regarding sanitation, which if I have time, I'll talk about it later on. Food storage, ventilation, air conditioning systems in the food storage areas, how we can actually get proper access to the fans there and the filtration of it. And motion sickness, well, that's coming down to stabilizers, and the surveyor's job there would be, I think, put in his 2 cents worth as to whether the stabilizers fitted for that size of vessel are the correct size, for example, or the best, the latest equipment available. Don't forget, the shipyard often will not fit the best equipment on board the yacht. And the owner doesn't know what is the best equipment, but you, through your own research, have been able to pick out the best type of zero-speed stabilizers that are very silent throughout the night. It's no good fitting a big hydraulic rams on a zero-speed stabilizers that keep everybody awake at night. Again, it's keeping one step of everybody else on this. Safety issues. Create scenarios to tease out any questionable results. So, in this case here, we've got, will this piece of machinery be safe to operate in all weather conditions? Well, you've got to look at the cranes and davits, or, for example, not always actually, the yachts are not always operating in calm seas. So check on if it is safe to operate in heavy conditions. What are the probabilities of damage occurring during the operation of a certain equipment? I'll just quickly go through these because we have so much still to do. Is it necessary to have a piece of machinery in that position, or could it be mounted somewhere better? Who will ensure that a particular item or accessory is kept maintained and ready to use? Okay, that's more discussion that you'll have with the captain. And how will the onboard safety systems operate in a crisis situation? This is probably the most important one, and I'd like to tease out a scenario with the captain from day one and just say, well, if we've got a fire, let's say in the domestic switchboards, will that actually affect the steering pumps for the navigation of the yacht? More often than not, actually, I've noticed that circuit breakers for the steering pumps, but just using this as one simple example, is within a domestic switchboard. Paramount is that the yacht should be able to operate without lights, without all your stereos and then all the other bits and pieces that go with it. The thing is, the boats, you've got to get it back to port. You've got to get it to safe anchorage, and that means navigation systems. That means rudder systems, and also actually being able to drop an anchor, being able to even tie up the boat with the cleats, making sure you get power supply to those. That also applies to life raft positioning, number 5. You're not going to install a life raft, for example, on the forward deck where it's very difficult to get access to it during a storm. I mean, things go wrong only in the storm 90% of the time. And the launching of the life raft, making sure that it can be launched even in a violently rocking boat. Could something be done to ensure some of this safety equipment is never tampered with or obstructed? Again, there's a case where making the safety equipment user-friendly and not get damaged by crew running up and down a staircase to an engine room and there's fire safety equipment actually, or fire suits actually just there on the side of it. But every time everybody's going up and down there, it could be disturbed, damaged, or even a bunch of brushes and soaps actually stuffed on top of the fire suit. Which crew member would be dedicated? That's a subject you'll bring up with your captain. Understanding fire prevention, general fire prevention of the structures varies considerably and can be grouped into 3 categories. There'll be fixed, passive, or fire protection. This is including materials that will be used in the construction of the yacht. It's mostly out of your hand, but you may notice that there's some highly inflammable floor materials in the galley or around the side of the galley that it could be a safety issue there as well. Mobile or active fire protection. This would include engine room firefighting equipment, which could be fixed. It could be a standby diesel fire pumps, which could be in the garage, making sure that you can get access to this equipment, even though there's no power supply to open up the garage door. And of course, the installation of fire fighting equipment. Don't forget, there's one thing I need to go back on right at the very beginning is classification for the yacht. And this, every single large vessel that I've touched, and I certainly wouldn't touch a yacht that is not covered by a classification society of some sort, that some are better than others, but they will have to give a classification, ABS or RENA or whatever certificate. They have to make sure all these things are up and running anyhow and correctly installed. Fire detection, but fire detection is an area where I, as a marine surveyor, get involved with a lot, making, for example, sure that smoke detectors and heat detectors are installed at the exhaust fan areas of a switchboard, because 90% of fires seem to be from switchboard fires in an engine room. Galley is no good fitting a heated detector in a galley. So actually, but you can also fit a fire detection equipment in the passageway of a galley. So if there's any smoke billowing out, it'll still let you know. Understanding types of corrosion. Well, Mike covered that extremely well. But for a surveyor, I feel that it helps immensely to have a general knowledge of all these areas of corrosion. I'll try to jump to just the ones which are the obvious for a surveyor, and that would be a crevice corrosion, or what we often call as deposit attack. Here you have, for example, a through-hole fitting made out of stainless steel, brass, aluminium, or whatever, with a hose pipe connector on it, and a rubber pipe and a Jubilee clip, as like Mike even showed a photo of one of them. I've forgotten how many times I've noticed there's been flooding of engine rooms, flooding of accommodation areas because of corrosion beneath the rubber pipe on the metal fitting, and it's literally just broken off, and the yachts have been flooded that way. So with this, once again, in mind, again, as I said before, you think about the insurance claims. Why did the boat sink? Because of actually a corroded pipe and because of the crevice corrosion. And make sure that any of these through-hole fittings are visible, have excellent access to, and the engineer on board knows that they're there. It's no good you actually having that knowledge but not sharing with the engineer because he happened to be back at his base when the thing was fitted, and then next thing you know, there's a floorboard over the top of the through-hole fitting, and nobody's aware that there's actually a Jubilee clamp on a hose on a through-hole fitting. So access is incredibly important to that. The uniform galvanic and pitting corrosion, grooving corrosion, a lot of this comes down to actually the environment that it's in, keeping it clean, the protection of the surface initially. Corrosion will occur at some stage, and once it starts, it's very hard to stop it because the pitting on the surface will be there forever. I'm a great believer in painting all engine room bilges, especially, it doesn't matter whether aluminium or steel. On that subject, one of the biggest problems I have with the shipyards is the preparation for the surface before it's painted. You know, they'll grind it or blast it or in January, and next thing you know, in July they're applying the paint. By then already it's actually the paint preparation is failed because you need to get back to the raw material before you actually apply anything to it. Summary: the corrosion identification, prevention, and understanding the cause of the corrosion at the design and construction stage are paramount in all new yachts. Additionally, condensation of stagnant water allows salt crystals to accumulate and increases the chance of corrosion. So keep the areas dry. Go through the bilges and make sure they're dry. Make sure all waters, for that matter, in the bilges accumulate in one area. You don't want pockets of water collecting behind the floor, longitudinal or transverse sections, because you will at some stage get corrosion there. There may be a galvanic corrosion because there's a €1 coin dropped from the electricity sitting in the bilge of an aluminium hull with salt water and a electric current going through it. Water treatment and management. This is a new subject which I'm going into in version 2 of my book. And these are the points where there's been some massive claims, insurance claims about water corrosion in pipes of yachts that were decommissioned at the end of the season and have taken 6 to 12 months before the sales come through. Meanwhile, the pipes have actually corroded within the accommodation areas, and the claim to replace all these pipes is, in some cases, gone into the certainly well in excess of €1.5 million. Sanitation of domestic water systems, that's a really hot subject at the moment as well. Charters are coming on board, and if the tanks are not sanitized properly with the right equipment, then we've got a problem on our hands. So the surveyor wants to make sure that the sanitation of all the waters on board the yacht up to grade. Sanitation of spas, that's a tricky one there, because you don't, spas and pools are actually drained before, often after each cruise, or even going between ports because of weather conditions, but they're quickly topped up with new fresh seawater, but the seawater could easily be contaminated. I find it's best to actually have an onboard tank that actually has the sanitized water in it, and you just keep sanitizing that water and topping the spas up with that water. Filtration of the shore supplied fresh water, that's something you can go through with the captain. Water testing equipment again. Sea trials, boy, is this a touchy subject. So I'm going to have to go through this very quickly because I think it's 7 minutes too. Now, stability characteristics of the yacht. Understanding the stability report and comparing the hydrostatic data with the real results. Now, you're not presenting a stability report. The yacht is built according to class, so they will be obliged to present a stability booklet. It doesn't hurt, however, to be present during the inclining experiment. Once again, documenting everything and just making sure that it actually is going ahead according to what you believe is a correct protocol. You can also comparing the hydrostatic data with the real. Now, sea keeping characteristics of the yacht. how she handles at all points of the compass, the general performance of the yacht, the maneuverability of the yacht, and the wetness test. Most of that should be second nature for the captain, but don't forget, it could be a new captain, and captains often are changed or inexperienced for the larger vessels. So you want to make sure that the yacht has very good directional stability in heavy weather. And this is a tricky one because testing a yacht, more often than not, they're going to test it, the shipyard will test it as minimum times as possible because one, it costs a lot of money in diesel. Number two is actually they're taking people off the boat during the sea trials, and they're racing against time to get the yacht built. And of course, to test it properly, you really, more often than not, you need to test it also in heavy weather. Heavy weather, meaning, try at least go out there in some choppy seas. Engine and equipment performance tests, that goes without saying. You're going to have on board a engine manufacturer to representative to go through the protocol of the engines. Tracking of the yacht, wheel over, sensitivity of the manual helm. Manual helm is a big one that is actually overlooked. There's got to be a backup system for that, and that must be checked. Autopilot response and tracking features, testing of the emergency rudder. The vibration test and analysis. Here, you really need to know your onions if you're going to be submitting a complaint regarding vibration. My book goes into it extensively. It's not an easy subject, but once again, if you're not sure of it, then bring a vibration specialist and know how to isolate and analyze vibration from resonance. And to do that, you really need a more extensive sea trial. Very difficult subject. Actually, once again, thanks for Gecko to supply me the photos. Acceptance and delivery. The signing of the official acceptance and delivery documents must be done with full knowledge and compliance of its terms and conditions. Anything that you feel is non-compliant with the builder contract and its annexes should be clearly noted. And again, your client, the owner's representative, will be coming across to you and saying, well, do I sign this acceptance certificate? More often than not, there's insufficient testing of the onboard systems, so don't be afraid to mention that. Incomplete or faulty paintworks, failure to achieve required constant or maximum yacht speed, the observance of vibration, resonance, or noise that is subject to a penalty, equipment that may not have been fitted, delivered, or has been found to be faulty, and workmanship of any kind has been found to be inferior or faulty. Complete a full pending list and have it signed by the shipyard and the legal representative of the owner with an agreed period of time in which the pending list should be resolved. This is very important. Everybody accepts, it must be understood that the yacht will not be 100% complete on delivery date. And don't forget, there's a high chance that the yacht will be, must be available for a charter, for example, probably 2 weeks after the delivery of the yacht. So you can't hold up the delivery for the charter because the sea trials weren't completed correctly. So just make it a list of anything pending. So there we go. I think just a couple of minutes to 3 minutes before the hour. As I said, anybody is very welcome, and I'd be very happy to share any knowledge I have if I can answer the question that you have on an email. This is my private email, so feel free.
Mark, fantastic. Thank you.
Mike, sorry, a little bit rushed here, but
no, that's fine.
It's a big subject, and
it's
to try
a
to do
huge
it.
Subject. And what I think you've done perfectly is just to give people an introduction to what is a vast subject. And if that encourages surveyors to sort of build their portfolio and look upwards and so on, then, you know, there's a lot of these boats coming out, Mark, every year that they're still building, I don't know, 200 or 300 a year or something the last time I looked.
That's right, yes. And they're actually getting bigger and bigger and more complex. And going back to what Ian said initially too, they're actually, the equipment that they're fitting on them is just so vast now, so complex.
Yeah. So it's I suppose,
and often inferior, because they figure, well, it's better if we replace the yacht every 10 years than actually and have it last in 20.
yeah, yeah. And of course, you just look at these things, and even the super yacht coating on them is a whole separate project, valuable project in its own right these days. So yeah, fascinating. Mark, brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for giving your time. And once again, if you'd like a copy of Mark's book, we've got those available at $39.50. Fantastic. Okay, Michael Pinto, I can see you lurking there on my screen. How are you?
I'm blessed, thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. So we're gonna crack straight on. Let me just kill that recording there.